let's jump into it. Let's go ahead and we're going to open the Foreflight app. Hopefully you've downloaded it already. And I want to encourage you to go ahead and open up your application and follow along with me. Okay, we have Foreflight open, and you notice we're on the Airports tab. If you look at the very bottom of the screen, the bottom left there, Airports is highlighted, and that's the airport page. That's what I want to talk about first, but just really quickly, down there at the bottom is your navigation bar, and you notice next to Airport you have Maps, and just kind of walking us through very quickly here, we can get a sectional view, a VFR sectional view, or an IFR chart view, many different views on this Maps page, which is wonderful. And then next to that we have plates. These would be IFR approach plates, departure plates, and airport diagrams, taxi diagrams, alternate minimums, takeoff minimums, and it is great information. Next to that we've got documents, and this could be a lot of different things, including the manual to Foreflight is right in there. We also have the Part 91 regulations you can see midway through, and there's just a lot that you can download through Foreflight, including a lot of FAA publications and advisory circulars and those kinds of things. Next door to that we've got the Imagery, and this would be all of your weather reports, and charts, and forecasts. We'll go through all of that. We're going to go through each of these in detail, just giving you a quick flyover right now. File and brief, this is where you can get a weather briefing through DUWATS. So it is an FAA approved briefing as well. And then you can file actually your flight plan, whether it's a VFR or IFR flight plan. You can do that right through here. And next door to that we've got Scratchpad, some different options there that you can grab some ATIS information, or you can grab your clearance, your IFR clearance, through a number of different available templates that they have on Scratchpads. Very handy there. And then the More tab has just got a lot of different things, all of your downloads, charts, and documents and databases to keep them current for your Foreflight app. Down the line, there's a lot of different elements here that we can input aircraft, we can keep our own logbook, we can do weight and balance calculations. Very cool stuff, very handy. Oh, it does so much. It does a lot. So let's go back to airports here. We're going to click that tab at the bottom there, and we're back to the airports page. This is the information we need to get or glean from various airports. And so let's start here, and I'll describe this page and all the features and elements that you get here. First off, notice we have KSMX. That is Santa Maria Airport, California. There's the latitude and longitude given there. And you have sunrise and sunset information as well. 6:16 a.m. or 7:59 p.m. for sunset at the time of this recording. Then we've got some general information down below, really handy information. Notice it says flight category is marginal VFR and it's color-coded blue. This is just a general sense of what's going on in terms of the current surface observations, the METAR at this airport, letting you know if it's VFR. If it were, it would say VFR right there, and it would be in green color. So the colors actually mean something as well, but it turns out it's marginal VFR, which means the ceiling has got to be maybe between 1,000 or 3,000 foot ceilings, and or the visibility could be between 3 and 5 statute miles. So it's marginal VFR at this point, and we'll get into that more in just a second. Also, if it was IFR, it would be listed as such, or low IFR. And again, the color will change. So that's the flight category. Then we have elevation, 261 feet MSL, pattern altitude, 1261 MSL. Just some really good information right off the top. You don't have to tap for it. It's just right there staring at you. You can tap right here, that little arrow next to the pattern altitude, and you can see there's a little more information for light aircraft. It's 1261. But for turbine or heavy aircraft, the pattern altitude is 1761 MSL. Fuel, yes, they have it. They've got 100 low lead and Jet A. They also have some procedures there, some IFR procedures, approaches like an ILS, a GPS, a VOR, a localizer, and ... means there's other approaches available there as well. There's some frequencies to your right there, an ATIS frequency, that's your weather, clearance delivery, if it had clearance to delivery, but it doesn't. Ground control is 121.9, tower is 118.3, and there's a approach departure frequency there for us as well. So again, just some information that's staring right at us as we open up the airport's page. And this is usually where I like to start, get some information about the airport I'm going to, including frequencies, including weather, and we'll get NOTAMs and so much more. Now, if you notice over to the right, there are 4 little boxes there. It says taxiways, nearby, Fbos, and comments. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap on the taxiways. And when I do, notice that we've got an airport diagram that came up. This diagram is a detailed diagram. It shows us the runways. We've got runway 1230. It gives us some information about the runway, like the length and width. It's 8,004 feet by 150 feet wide. The other runway is 220, and that is 5,189 feet by 75 feet. All kinds of information on this as well. You've got pinch and zoom functionality here, so you can kind of enlarge that. You can scroll, you can move it around. If you need a little bit better close-up view, we can see taxiways are labeled Charlie, intersections like Charlie 1, Charlie 2, and Charlie 3. We can see Alpha and Bravo, so all the taxiways. So we can be familiarized with the airport before we get there or as we're departing. And so important, especially at very, very complex airports, that you do familiarize yourself with the airport layout. We also see some hotspot areas. That's what these brown little areas with the circles and HS1, that stands for hotspot 1 and hotspot 2, hotspot 3 and 4. If you've never heard of a hotspot, these are just particular areas that pilots you always need to be alert, but pay extra vigilance, because these are problem spots. These are areas where if you're not paying particular attention, you could inadvertently cross a runway and have a runway incursion, or a taxiway that meets another taxiway that could be an issue. So they're very critical spots, and so we've got some information right here very nicely at the tip of our fingers to make sure that we're going to have a good heads up about this airport and where trouble spots might be. And while we're on this page, notice that it has at the very top there, it says tap to view one NOTAM. It's in red. And if there's a NOTAM, a local NOTAM for the airport, you can tap right here and you can pick it up. We see that taxiway Alpha 8, the holding sign for runway 30, is out of service. So that's good to know, and it's giving us some dates there, the effective date, when it started, and when the NOTAM expires, and when it has been updated. So we have other places that we can get our NOTAMs, but here, while you're looking at it, while you're looking at a view of the airport, it is nice to have local NOTAMs, issues about the airport, right at your fingertips, so you can start to get familiar with what's going on. Now let's move up toward the top of this page here, and you see where it says airport diagram. We have some little buttons and little options at the top on that strip up there. Let's start at the top right below where it says my percentage is 98% battery life on my iPad. If we click the lock, then what it'll do is, there's the lock, I've got it activated. When I twist my iPad, now you can't tell that I'm doing that, but I'm twisting my iPad from the portrait view to the landscape view, and it's not moving. If I unlock that like it was, now it's unlocked, and I move my iPad, I go to the landscape view, you can see it's moving. Okay, so if you don't want that, if you're in the portrait view and that's the way you've got your iPad, maybe it's mounted in the cockpit a certain way, or it's on a knee board, you may want to lock that so it doesn't flip around on you, and that's how you do that. The button right next door to it, this one here, would add the airport diagram to our plates section. Now notice down below where we started at airports, and the next to that was maps. Notice now we're highlighted on plates. Automatically it went to plates when we open up the airport diagram. And I have actually already saved this airport diagram to my plates so that I can come back and review it. And I can pull up many different elements within the plates section. But since I've already added it, it's saying, do you want to add another airport diagram for KSMX? And I'm just going to click cancel right now at this point. The button next to that, we're just moving from the top right corner where the lock was, right to left here, and I'm going to tap that, and that just rotates the diagram around. So if you need that functionality, there's sort of upside down. If I wanted it that way, we can do that. Button next to that has got a little box with an arrow pointing up. This is to send the document somewhere. So if I tap that, it says send to print or to the map. It's great to print this out, so I have a hard copy of it if I want that. If I use a traditional kneeboard, that can be very handy to slip on in there. Also, if you hit the map, it will send it to the map, to the sectional or to the IFR chart, whatever you have there, to the airport, so that when you scroll in or zoom in on that airport, up will pop this diagram. Very cool feature there as well. Moving across, you see a little symbol there that looks like a pencil or a pen. If we tap that, we get a whole series of different options here, including now the option to write some information on there. If we want to say info Bravo is current on the ATIS information. Of course, we have a scratch pad for that too. We can go to that and use that. But if we needed to draw anything on here, and we can save it. So if I wanted to circle a particular hotspot and remind myself that's an issue there, and that's an issue there. If I wanted to kind of put it in color, we can even change the weight of that by tapping the little down arrow next to the 3px and increasing the point size of that. You can see I can go really thick to a 21 point or 20 point thickness. And now when I move my finger, you can see we've got, I'll make a little box here, we've got the ability to do some of that. And I can maybe fill in things like this, or fill in this little circle here, fill in this circle here, or maybe highlight. I'm going to the terminal and I want to highlight that. Or maybe I need to highlight some information down here, this caution right here. Okay, so handy features, and there's a bunch of different kinds of things as we move through these different symbols. This is a box. This one gives us like a circle. So different things that you can do. Now, if your kid gets on this, this is what it's probably going to look like, right? Well, what you can do is at the top there, it says clear. See that next to the 20 point? Hit the clear button and it says clear annotations. And again, if you can save it this way, it'll pull up this way, but you can clear them out. And there you go. So you can play around with that, have some fun. When you're done, click done so you can get back to your main menu. Now, that was the little pencil symbol or pen symbol. Now, if we hit FBO, just a subtle thing, notice Central Coast Jet Center pops up right there. Okay, oh, it won't stay enlarged, that's fine. If I toggle this FBO button off, it goes away. It also says FBO there just by itself, but when I tap the FBO, it tells me who it is. It's Central Coast Jet Center. So if I needed to go to the Jet Center, that's nice to be able to know where the FBOs are on the field. The next symbol next door to that just says recents, places I've been, and we can go back. So it's nice to have recents and then close. So we can close that out. Notice when I closed out the airport diagram, it took me out of plates at the very bottom and it pushed me back to the airports page, which is where I was when I tapped that. So that was the taxiways button in the upper right hand corner here. Now next to the taxiways is nearby. Let's tap that, nearby. This is pretty nice because in a glance we can see nearby airports just by scrolling through and their weather in plain English. This would be current METAR surface observations. And so if I was comparing the weather around me here for a go, no-go decision, this is a really handy button to use. Next to that or below that is the FBOs. We saw the Central Coast Jet Center FBO option there, and we've got some maintenance information here. If you have an iPhone, you can tap these numbers and you can be calling these businesses. Nice feature here too is we saw that it has 100 low lead and Jet A, but here it gives us the actual price. So boy, isn't that handy. There's also another function in the map view that we'll show you later on that will compare prices all around you for fuel. I'm telling you, Foreflight has got a great amount of information on it. Okay, next to the FBOs over there, our last of the 4 boxes there in the upper right hand corner, we did taxiways, nearby, FBOs, and now comments. Comments are very important. These are airport remarks. Okay, these are things that are pertinent to the airport that you're going to. You want to make sure that you familiarize yourself with them. For example, it says calm wind less than 8 knots, use runway 30. So runway 30 is the preferred runway here at Santa Maria. So just make sure you always tap the comments and understand noise abatement rules and other such things. Next to that, it also says at the top remarks or comments. Notice the comments. Let's go ahead and highlight the comments button now. And this is kind of neat. We do a lot of things these days by reviews, right? When you book a hotel, you're probably like me, you want to know what other people thought. I always look at the reviews, whether you're buying a book or a DVD or whatever it is. Well, here's some reviews about this airport. And so some people's comments and some things that might be handy information to you. Also encourage you to leave a comment by clicking the add comment. Okay, let's go to the top. Notice right above these 4 buttons that I was just explaining, it says search for airport tail city. Let's go ahead and tap into that, and let's search for an airport. Oh, let's do a big one. Let's do SFO. That should be San Francisco, right? And search. Okay, voila, very quickly comes up KSFO, San Francisco International. Okay, now if you weren't sure what the airport code would be, you can just type in Atlanta, for example, if you're looking for Atlanta area, and all the different options within Atlanta are going to show up. And you can select the particular airport that you want. Let's say we're looking at Fulton County Airport, FTY. That's next to Hartsfield-Jackson in Atlanta, Georgia. And it's just as simple as that. Now, continuing from right to left on the top row there, we have another little symbol here, and we'll tap that. And what does this do? Well, it just shows you, notice it snapped us to the maps view. If you look at the very bottom strip there, we're on the Maps tab now, and it's taken us to that map view because we were interested in finding out where is FTY, Fulton County Airport in Atlanta. And it's highlighted it, it's pointing to it right there on a VFR sectional view, because that's what we have open right now, giving us a lot of great information about that airport. If we scrolled through all the frequencies we might be interested in, including a phone number for the ASOS for the weather, various other frequencies, flight service, runways that they have, lengths and widths, pattern altitudes, some airport notes and information on procedures like IFR procedures, just so much information. And that is just the one info tab at the very bottom of this dialog box. Take a look at that. Next door to that, you've got METAR. So we can just kind of say, you know, is this where I want to be going? There's a lot of great information I can pull up. Notice that it's got a METAR at the top in green, and it's VFR. So VFR is always going to be in green color, just as green is good, right? Green is good. And notice that we have a raw, undecoded version of the METAR below that. And then you have the translated, the plain English version below that, which a lot of us like, right? Here's another cool thing. As I move up and scroll, I can see nearby airports to the airport I've selected here and what their weather is in plain English. So a really handy feature to be able to just quickly compare notes to what's going on weather-wise around this airport that you're considering. Then again, if I keep moving back to the bottom there, METAR, go to Forecast, tap the Forecast button there, and notice that we have a TAF, a Terminal Aerodrome Forecast. It's all green, which is generally good, but we've got some blue information in there. And you know, it's not the scope of this course to teach how to read TAFs or METARs or to unpack a lot of that. For that, we have a full, complete private pilot course to help you with that, and I hope you make use of that. But I'm showing you the various features and functions of the Foreflight app here. And notice we've got blue because we have some marginal VFR weather. Blue is going to be marginal VFR weather. Looks like we got some gusty wind conditions, some not so great visibilities, 5 statute miles there. And we've got some light thunderstorms and rain, broken clouds at 3,500 cumulonimbus. So this is definitely a marginal VFR situation there, not too great. Later on it goes back to green. Then we've got the plain version, or the plain English version I should say, and we can kind of scroll through this 24-hour forecast for Fulton County, Atlanta. Next to that, we've got winds aloft information. Again, just some great information that you can just browse here very quickly while you're at it. If you wanted to check some information out again about the Fbos and services they have, fuel prices, and so forth, you can do that with this little pop-up window. We're going to move ourselves back to the airports now, over here at the bottom, and now we're back to the airports there. Okay, so we access that through the button at the top. That looks like a little drop pin kind of button there. Now next to that you see a star, don't you? See that star? If we click that, this goes yellow, and what that does is it sends it into my favorites list. So if I've got certain airports that I fly to or I frequent a lot, you can very easily label it as a favorite this way. Now let me swing this. I haven't done this yet, but let me swing my iPad to a landscape view, from the portrait view to a landscape view, and notice what happens. As soon as I do that, well, it's a little bit bigger now. And notice that I picked up something on the left margin there, a favorites folder or bin. And those are all airports that I've saved by simply hitting the little star and making it yellow so that I can kind of keep a watch on these airports. Again, these could be airports that I go to frequently. When I move it from this view landscape back to portrait, notice the favorites sidebar disappeared. Well, you can bring that sidebar back up in the portrait view by simply hitting the 2 stars there in the upper left hand corner. If I hit those 2 stars, notice the favorites is just kind of squeezed in to the portrait. So you don't get everything, but it'll come in. And by the way, we can edit our favorites by just hitting the edit button there and either deleting them or remanaging them. Say that I wanted to put Fulton County, which we were looking at just recently here. Maybe I want to put that up to the top. I'll just click and drag it and move it around. Maybe I want to put SMX, which was the original airport I showed us, at the top. So we can easily reorganize. When we're done, we just hit done. Let's go back to the landscape view, and for probably the remainder of this class, I'll just leave it in landscape view. That's typically the view that I like to use and be in.